The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is the main event.
This is your main event, Mark's Podcast. I'm your first host, lifelong wrestling fan, former radio guy, cat dad, and the man who is working on a mullet rating app called Number One with a Mullet. I am Troy. And with me is always the man you just heard. He is the main event collector, figure hunting warrior, and he is the WCW watcher of classic wrestling, and the Z-Man to my Flyin Brian. It's Greg. What's up, Greg?
Ex-Hulk Hogan, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, until they found out he was mostly looks, and well, that was about it. I don't know.
It's kind of funny how that works. Like, he's mostly looks, and Flyin Brian became a huge thing.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, because, like, Flyin Brian was... not that Z-Man sucked. Like, that's become a narrative. Like, I think you and I talked about this, where it's like, I don't think he ever sucked. He wasn't great, but I don't know. I've seen way worse.
We said the same thing about Marty Jannetty and the Red Rooster.
Oh, God.
Why all of a sudden they just suck because they were stuck? Like, he was saddled with having like one of the greatest wrestlers ever as a partner, and more Red Rooster saddled with a crappy gimmick. How does that make them suck?
That's true. Their positioning on the card just didn't do them any favors. And we're actually going to be mentioning both of those guys in various news stories we're going to be covering today, because it is the year 1990.
We did not set this up.
Oh, yeah. We don't
rehearse the show, and I think it shows.
There you go. But yeah, man, today we're going back to the year 1990. We've been skipping all around lately, not sticking to the evens, and
it's driving OCD crazy.
I wanted to switch it up this year because last year I tried to stick to it religiously, and there's a lot of different events I wanted to cover this year. I thought we're just gonna throw out the model and go with and not Rick Martel, but we're gonna throw out
a model,
the old model, and go with whatever we find is fun this year. Some of these, I guess, depends on your definition of fun. Like next month we're going to be covering some EC dub, or excuse me, this month we're going to be covering some EC dub. I know Greg is champing at the bit for that one, man. He's like, ECW, hell yeah, let's just jump ahead to that. No,
my ass is in the seat.
Hell yeah, man. Why wouldn't it be? To which I say,
shut up and take my money.
There you go. But
don't worry, Paul did, and he didn't pay it back.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Too soon?
We're actually going with quite possibly one of the most opposite things you could get to ECW. Today we're going back to 1990 to cover WrestleWar 1990. I feel like
no, this is crap. It's like ECW. We mean complete opposite.
Oh, good Lord. I feel like with the way NWA/WCW promoted the show, they stylized like WrestleWar was one word instead of separating it and everything like WrestleMania. I feel like they wanted this to be their WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Which also,
I never thought of it like that, but I did catch the one word. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that also makes me think. Okay, so Eric Bischoff wasn't the first one to go. Maybe Starrcade isn't our biggest event. Kind of weird.
I always liked how Halloween Havoc was his idea for one. You know what the tentpole event is? The spooky event.
Yeah, the gimmicked up one that drops in
Great American Bash. It said Spring Stampede. No one would have batted an eye, but really Halloween Havoc.
Right, that's a weird one. Like, okay, and it's not like you had this like great history of every year Halloween Havoc is just a runaway banger of a show, So it's like, why is that the one?
To be fair.
Yeah, well, it's like Great American Bash, like you had just mentioned, had a pretty decent track record of historic shows. That's where the War Games match was born, and everything else. It used to be a tour.
First title reign.
Yeah, so I mean, there was some cool stuff. The the Sting versus Ric Flair's historic match and everything. Like, a lot of cool stuff. But no. Halloween Havoc. Okay. But this one...
They did pour a lot of money in it with going to Vegas, and then like obviously they're getting all the money from Slim Jim.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and I get that. But it's just like, okie doke. But this time, I feel like, because in 1989, the very first WrestleWar, which is now in the archives, by the way, they had Flair versus Steamboat, and they tried to make that a big thing. And I just feel like they were trying to make this a big thing moving forward, and it just, man.
Well, to be fair, they should be making all their pay-per-views a big thing.
Right, because they didn't have 12 a year like they, is kind of standard for today's time. But man, this show, I mean, not to crap on it or anything, you're going to want to hear our review instead of watching it for yourself if you're curious. Because I've mentioned, I do that with movies. If I'm unsure about a movie...
We should warn you, before you watch it, don't watch it.
Right. Yeah, don't waste your time. Just listen to us. We'll cover it for you in a shorter amount of time. And we've got some funny notes from various things in the news to cover here. And
yeah,
I really feel...
of our cute antidotes.
Exactly. And I really feel like the news is what makes these shows, especially these shows where it's like, oh God. But this one especially is just like, I had higher hopes for it, and then I watch it and I'm like, ugh. So
yeah, you guys won't see this, but he sent me a message going, oh my God, this show's bad. And I'm just telling him I only watched the first match so far.
Right. And then I texted you last night because obviously I have my own ratings, but then I also look at what Dave Meltzer rated things, and I messaged you. I'm like, I feel like we were watching two totally different shows here. And I think you said something.
I asked if it was secretly in the Tokyo Dome. We didn't know.
Yeah, either that or the check cleared, one of the two. But there are some matches where I'm like, how the F did you... Whatever. Not that he's the end-all, be-all of ratings, but it's just like...
Ask Daniel Garcia. He thinks he is.
Oh, God.
I got a 4-star rating from Meltzer. This is something I'm proud of. Real words. Well,
in that same vein, who the hell cares about Daniel Garcia?
Anybody he has picks up doing naughty stuff?
God. Yeah, right. But before we get into our first break here, because we do have a lot of news and notes to cover, we're going to pause right quick to let you know that the Main Event Marks is sponsored by Swift Lifestyles. Their clean energy drinks and focus enhancers, great tasting vitamins, and big brain nootropics that are made and shipped from the USA. Go to swiftlifestyles.com and use our special promo code Main Event Marks. That is all one word to get 15% off your order. It's Main Event Marks, all one word, for 15% off your order. But now that we're done with that, we're going to dive into our first break here. And on the other end of this, first of all, don't skip ahead, because we don't put ads in here. You might also find your favorite podcast, your next favorite podcast, behind us, of course, in one of these breaks.
Let me run down my list here. You got Curtain Jerkin, The Apron Bump, here in Puckburg.
Yeah.
Those are all on my list, bro.
Yeah, go check out all of them. Apron Bump is just good quality stuff. He always shakes it up every week. Curtain Jerkin is on our YouTube page, by the way. So if you're not subscribed, please go subscribe. You don't just get...
I don't show anything
stuff.
I don't listen to, by the way. I refuse.
Right. Yeah, keep it 100.
I endorse all of these.
Yeah, and for all of you out there who, like I said, if you haven't checked out our YouTube page, not only do you get clips of the podcast, clips of us just talking about current stuff that doesn't make it to the podcast, and the full-length podcast in itself, you also get, and our Marks on Media stuff where we talk about things outside of wrestling. But you also get Curtain Jerkin, where if you do want to hear kind of a long-form analysis of current shows and current news, Jacob Grandi's got you covered. So go check that out. It drops at different times, usually around Monday, but occasionally...
I listen to it on Tuesday mornings at the gym.
Yeah, and he occasionally drops a video throughout the week if there's enough stuff to talk about. So go check that out. You get a lot of quality on our YouTube page, if I do say so myself. That's a long way of saying it. Just go check out and subscribe to our YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah, it's a full Jim Cornette. We went around our elbow to get to our wrist in this one. Sorry.
Yeah, right. It's on our link tree, linktr.ee/main event marks. All the links are on there, including the podcast links. But we'll be right back after this break. to get in the news.
Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector. Get ready to rumble in your new Main Event Marks merchandise. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, masks, hats, stickers, pins, and much more on our Redbubble store. That's maineventmarks.redbubble.com. You can also pick up some awesome clothing items with the latest updated show graphics on our Bonfire store. That's bonfire.com/store/main event marks. Support your favorite retro wrestling podcast and pick up some cool swag on our Bonfire and Redbubble stores. That's maineventmarks.redbubble.com and bonfire.com/store/main event marks.
By God, somebody's interrupting the Main Event Marks. Sit down, JR. It's just me, Kyle Sullivan, aka Shaggy Von Doom, your host of Here in Puckburg on the Hockey Podcast Network. I know, a hockey show on the Main Event Marks. Who would have thought? This is an invasion angle. Somewhere between the Nexus and when WCW tried to invade WWE, somewhere in there. But I'm over here just telling you that one half of your tag team champions over here, Greg, he told his story of his love for the game of hockey over on my show. And if you'd like to hear that story, all you have to do is search Here in Puckburg wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. In the meantime, Shagamania's got to go run wild on some other hockey show. So, just remember, quote the Raven, nevermore. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, and oh yeah!
The Main Event Marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/Main Event Marks.
And we're back.
We're back.
Just to let you know, the Main Event Marks is sponsored by Shocked Energy. Shocked Energy is a healthier alternative to traditional energy drinks that gives the energy that gamers need while in a long session without skimping on their health. Their products come in a powder form to mix into your water. You can either choose the green apple or watermelon boxes. If you want to try both, you can get the sample kit, use our link in the podcast description, or simply go to shockedenergy.com. At checkout, use our promo code MAINEVENT, that's all one word, to save 10% off your order. That's promo code MAINEVENT to save 10% at checkout. Also, if you're tuning into a wrestling podcast to hear about wrestling and you want it gimmick and politic free, you probably want the same out of your products. Are you ready to ditch the gimmick coffee? Coffee Brand Coffee is fresh roasted to order using only the highest quality coffee sourced direct from farms around the world. They've got bagged coffee as well as K-Cups. Not into coffee? Well, they've got great teas and cocos as well. At Coffee Brand Coffee, their head coffee roasters have mastered the art of unlocking flavors hidden inside their beans. Each batch is custom crafted and curated to accompany unique flavor profiles. Click on the link in the podcast description or go to coffeebrandcoffee.com and use our special promo code MAINEVENT, all one word, at checkout to get 5% off your order. That's coffeebrandcoffee.com and use the promo code MAINEVENT to save 5% at checkout. News and notes time. What the hell are you cracking today?
Sparkling ice.
Ah, nice. No LaCroix, though.
Hell no, that stuff sucks.
Yeah, we've discussed that in
I
the
don't care
past.
about that. I don't care if we never get that sponsorship. I'm good.
No, I'm good. Yeah, it's like they would literally have to pay me to drink their stuff and then pretend like I like it. Diving into the WWF side here because they have the biggest news. This was funny. I sent you the news that came before this story just a few weeks before this. Actually, I'll get into, but the WWF is searching for a new referee for Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage at the main event as Mike Tyson dropped out of the gig at the last minute.
Okay, real quick. I read this when I first woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? What the F? Because you put Tyson Fury, I'm like, what the hell am I reading here?
Oh, yeah. Well, the for anybody...
This is why you shouldn't look at your phone, right? I didn't, like, it wasn't like right when I rolled out of bed, but like, I didn't have all my senses yet, and I saw the notification light blinking. Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's probably idiot TJ, and it was.
Wow. Well, the pre-story, what I was referencing was that they wanted Mike Tyson to sign on to be the referee for the main event. Hogan Savage, but he had a match or a fight coming up at the Tokyo Dome versus some guy who gives a damn. Buster Douglas. And as long as nothing happens between now and then, it should be fine. But what are the odds?
There's
of
no
that,
way Tyson losing this loser.
Yeah, right. Who, like you had mentioned before, is like, who the hell is Buster Douglas? Like, he knocked the hell out of Mike Tyson. That's who he is. Wasn't that like his only claim to fame?
Pretty much. He lost the title in his first defense, I believe.
Yeah, there you go. But
I believe Holyfield beat the crap out of him.
Oh, man. Well, it was actually too late to make changes on the syndicated shows for the advertising of Tyson, but Don King's office issued a categorical, he's not going to be there, and that's that. The WWF has already done emergency tapings where they re-recorded commentary and interviews to talk about former world champion Mike Tyson, but by the time that Tyson pulled out, it was too late to fix it any further. So instead, the special referee will be Buster Douglas. He'll be making $100,000 for the job, which is actually what Tyson would have made in the real world rather than the imaginary millions promoted by Don King. Wait, you mean
Holy America.
You mean Don King was full of crap and BSing everybody? No. That
You gonna
doesn't
tell me
happen.
next that Paul Heyman does it too?
Yeah, right? God. But they actually talked to George
What
Foreman
kind
and
of world do we live in?
They actually talked to George Foreman and Evander Holyfield as well before going with Douglas. I don't know if that's true because Bruce Pritchard talked about it and he said that they just logically thought, well, let's get Douglas because they had
Holyfield would have been, or like Foreman would have been the next big name, but Holyfield was still active.
Yeah. So I mean, both of them in the long run would have been more popular than Buster Douglas, but at the time, I guess he was the hot thing. So you got to go with with what's hot then.
He's
I guess
the guy that beat the guy.
Right. So they were like, well, no Tyson, we'll get the guy who beat Tyson, and there you go.
That's logic. I mean, to me.
Well, Bruce Pritchard said he got the call actually because he said they were in the air, flying to a town when the fight was going on, and when he landed, he gets a call in his hotel room, and I think I think he said it was Kevin Dunn. He's like, he lost. Like, who lost? Tyson. Like, who the hell beat him? He's like, Buster Douglas. Like, who the hell is that?
The consensus #1 contender.
Right. And he said they just all were like, the hell are we gonna do now? I mean, we can still get Tyson, maybe, but then I guess, after he lost, Tyson just didn't want a part of any of this, so whatever. But also somebody pointed, like that story I sent you, they also said, he's not gonna lose to Buster Douglas, whoever the hell that is. That'd be as illogical.
His name is Buster.
Right. Well, he said that's about as realistic
as name or description.
So that's about as realistic as Ronda Rousey losing to Holly Holm on some random UFC show.
Yeah, about that.
Right. Well, the only WWF show to acknowledge the change so far is Prime Time, while all the other advertising out there still focuses on Tyson being there. Meanwhile, various newspapers were reporting that Tyson was going to get into a shoving match with Hogan, leading to a match with them at WrestleMania. Uncle Dave notes that this one is already debunked, and in fact, the finish was going to be Savage shoving Tyson and getting knocked out and pinned, which is the finish that
That's WrestleMania 14 in a nutshell right there, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Well, and it kind of goes with Dave. It's not like he's, Dave is Nostradamus here. He says this is the finish to every boxer wrestler angle in the history of the business.
He is Nostradamus. He always calls stuff unless they change plans because he found out.
Yeah, right. Well, hashtag plans change. Also, in fact, that is what went on here with Buster Douglas. So there you go. But that doesn't, like, why would he get into a shoving match with Hulk Hogan? I realize Hulk's the guy. But it's like, wouldn't that, I guess if you're going to try to build Tyson up as the heel going into Mania, but I don't know. By the way, just saying, if that would have went down like that, that match would have been bowling shoe ugly. Can you imagine?
Bringing a new definition of god awful.
Right. Can you imagine Hulk Hogan? Like, we talked before about Hulk Hogan's a star and he's had some serviceable matches or whatever. But can you imagine him trying to lead a non-wrestler through a match? Like, just the two of them? Like, that would have been something to see, man.
And the guy that he's leading could legitimately kill him.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, look at Ali versus Inoki. That match sucked, and Inoki was an amazing wrestler. So, God.
And Ali was an amazing boxer. Just doesn't mix oil and water.
Exactly. Yep. Well, the WWF is really pushing for the new attendance record for WrestleMania 7 at the LA Coliseum, and they'll begin selling tickets. And they'll begin selling tickets the week after WrestleMania 6, hoping to hit 101,000 people, which means a year straight of hype and ticket sales. And as we know, they would never do that ever again. Nope. A year straight of WrestleMania hype? Never. Flash
sarcasm in there.
Flash forward to the Raw after WrestleMania 27. But speaking of which, there is a new twist on the WrestleMania 6 main event. It will be title versus title. So now there's all kinds of new speculation.
Title 4 title.
Yeah, I don't think they ever said officially that the Intercontinental title was on the line, right?
Yes, they did.
It was just,
Jack Tunney did at the press conference, I believe.
Okay. I thought it was just champion versus champion.
No, because they were teasing it the whole time. Which one would it be for? Because, it could totally just be for the IC title.
God, yeah, right. Yeah, because the Warrior wouldn't fight for a world title shot, and Hulk Hogan totally wanted that IC belt. Whatever.
2 belts works for me, brother.
Well, I never heard of this one.
Sorry to burst your bubble.
I never heard of the show before. This is kind of cool, though. I wonder if I can find footage of it. But the lineup for the joint WWF, All Japan Pro Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling show has been announced, with Hulk Hogan versus Terry Gordy on top, plus Genichiro Tenryu versus Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior versus Ted DiBiase, because even the Japanese didn't want to face Ultimate Warrior. Andre the Giant and Giant Baba versus Demolition, Jumbo Tsuruta and Yoshiaki Yatsu versus Kurt Hennig and Rick Martel, Ricky Choshu versus Big Boss Man, Tiger Mask versus Bret Hart, and a bunch more to be announced. This changes a bit, but ended up mostly being as
Which
advertised.
Tiger Mask was it?
I want to say this was Tiger Mask 2 at this point. I could be completely wrong. I forget when they changed the guard there on the Tiger Mask. There were so freaking many of them. And I completely forgot that it was based on a TV show, because when you first type in Tiger Mask, it brings up the anime. Kanemoto didn't take over until 92, so this has got to be Tiger Mask 1, or maybe it was Misawa. Yeah, okay, it might have been Misawa at that point. But either way, somebody out there correct me.
They will.
I don't know the Japanese timelines, bro.
Well, actually.
Well, speaking of actually, Giant Baba actually appeared on a WWF TV taping in Phoenix, Arizona, to shoot an angle with Andre the Giant for the Demolition match, but it won't air in the U.S. and was done for Japan. Meanwhile, Baba brought Terry Gordy with him to the show, but the chances of that match happening with Hogan are still about 50-50 right now. This next one I never heard of before, but No Holds Barred will be No Holds Barred will be released in Japan as Golden Bomber.
Because the movie bombed?
Hey. Wow. Didn't he call his move the Axe Bomber?
Think so.
Yeah. So it's the Golden Bomber. That's that's the Axe Bomber and the Golden Shower all mixed together.
What the hell?
I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But either way.
Oh, I don't want to hear any corrections about Golden Shower or anything. Please, no. Don't encourage that.
Come on now. Anyway. Well, You mentioned this guy at the top of the show. The Rockers showed up at recent tapings with their faces beaten black and blue, as they apparently got into a very violent fist fight with each other in Denver a few nights before, with Sean getting the worst of it.
Oh, wow.
Sean is 0 for life in fist fights. Go figure. But most sane wrestling promotions would put them on TV and blame their current enemies on the beating, but the WWF sent them home until further notice. Sean wants to be out of the team, and Vince McMahon has asked Marty to turn heel and go single.
Yeah, that's going to work.
Yeah, well, that's the first time I get to use this for Uncle Dave on the show. Incorrect. Hashtag plans changed. Marty.
Is there any audio of him saying plans changed? There is. We need that.
Yeah, I wish. If somebody knows where I can get audio of that, let me know. Hit me up. Slip into my DMs.
We know he writes a lot. I don't think I've ever heard it verbally.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know if he's ever said it, but anyway, and if he did, he'd be like, well, it's like, well, it's like, plans changed. Anyway, Greg Valentine has now dyed his hair jet black and is teaming with the Honky Tonk Man as Rhythm and Blues. And
hell yeah, I'm getting that figure soon.
He'll be singing a song at WrestleMania. Oh, joy. Yeah, and if anybody doesn't know the story, Greg Valentine absolutely hated that. And
I didn't realize his disdain until Priester said it. I went back and watched the performance, and you can see the look on his face like, why the hell am I here?
Yep. Yeah, they said he threw a fit when they told him they wanted him to dye his hair black, and he just hated the whole gimmick. And yeah, if you go back, knowing that now, go back, he's not just being a heel, he's boo-boo faced through every time you see him with this gimmick. Yeah, man. I mean, Greg the Hammer Valentine was a fairly well-known name in the WWF at this point, and they're like, we want to change everything about you. Whatever. That's like when they told AJ Styles and TNA, we want you to be the little nature boy and frost your tips and put a diamond earring in and all that. Wear a feather robe.
Ironically, isn't that what they want Flair to do? Wear a diamond earring?
Shave your head, wear an earring. Call yourself Spartacus. God.
Why?
Because Jim Herd is an idiot, Greg. That's why. Because F you, that's why.
Me, right?
But the Powers of Pain have broken up, with Barbarian going with Bobby Heenan. Although there's no
break up, they were broken up. Their contracts were sold to different managers. God, get it right.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's a real fact.
Right. Well, although there's no word on what the Warlord is going to be doing, Uncle Dave doesn't particularly think anyone will miss him if he's gone. Yeah, a little Batista would.
Right.
He's about like the one, but whatever. Oh God.
That figure.
I never did get the Warlord figure. I wanted to. It was always one of them
Stupid
where
not having the Barbarian with it though.
Right. It was always one of those where I was like, I'll get it later, and I just
figures like that, they're gone quick. You got to grab that when you can see it.
Yeah. They never. This one, I don't know how weird this one would have been. They should have released the Powers of Pain together in their Road Warrior ripoff attire. I thought
that's the one everyone wants, myself included.
Yep.
Or at least an homage to their AWA fakes.
Yeah. Well, if nobody knows what I'm referencing when I say Road Warrior ripoff, it's not just the face paint, but they literally had black tights with their names down the side in like yellow or red lettering, just like the Road Warriors. So it's like, my God, you guys really tried hard at this, didn't you?
Well, them and Demolition were not Road Warrior ripoffs too.
Oh yeah, no. Well, Demolition is if the Road Warriors, wanted to get into BDSM, but whatever. And for anybody that thinks I'm insulting them, I am a huge Demolition fan, so I'm just cracking fun at them. But this one...
Did you get an autograph from them in New Orleans?
I did, and I still got it safely packed away. There we go.
Why would you want that on proud display?
Yeah, well, I will once I get a man cave / office going on. But Paul Roma and Hercules have formed a new team.
Hercules.
They formed a new tag team, which will be called the Tag Team of the 90s.
No, it would be called that.
Right.
Matter of fact, that was the tagline they stuck on the Rockers.
Well, Uncle Dave.
You got everything wrong there, huh?
Well, Uncle Dave can't wait for the decade to end if that's true. But this is the second time I got to do it. Hashtag plans changed. They are Power and Glory. The tag team of the 90s. Mother of God. Although Paul Roma would go on to join the Four Horsemen, and Ric Flair would be jealous of him. He wishes he was Paul Roma.
Job guy from WWE?
No, Greg, the guy who Ric Flair wishes he was, damn it.
I love
Only he could be Paul Roma.
Oh, man.
Was he actually a job guy in WWE? Because
I don't
Power
know.
and Glory.
I don't think so, but I don't think they ever won any matches. I know that may sound like, well, yeah, that doesn't mean he was a job guy, but they never really won anything.
Yeah, well, I know he was in the Young Stallions, and then he was in Power and Glory. I might be missing one. I don't remember. But either way, yeah, I don't know if he was like necessarily a job guy, but
I think job guy. I think I like Brooklyn Brawler and Iron Mike Sharp. Those are job guys.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny that we got on this subject right at this point because Bloody Rose came to the tapings for his jobber role, and his weight is even more out of control than feared as he's at 355 pounds, and Vince McMahon is furious.
Damn it, pal. We want a Playboy.
God dang it, pal. You're not vascular. You're God, I feel like I just sink into you. What the hell? You're like a sack of pudding. Anyway. Apparently, according to Bruce Pritchard, he was messing with Jim Cornette, but I guess when Jim Cornette was like at his heaviest in WWF, Vince like grabbed him by the jacket or whatever, and he like instantly lets go. He's like, "Oh God, I sunk into you." Like he was repulsed by just touching Jim Cornette. It's like, did he have the same reaction grabbing Paul Bearer? It's like, I don't know. Like, well, maybe Paul Bearer wasn't as fun to mess with because Paul Bearer would hit you back with a rib. But anyway, speaking of losers, Ron Garvin is now basically a jobber, losing in total squashes to Earthquake every night. Ah, man.
You have that epic submission match with Greg Valentine at Royal Rumble 1990.
Yeah.
That he won, I believe. Like he won that.
Was that the wait? Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that match where it was like figure 4 versus figure 4, and
and Valentine has the shin guard on, which puts more pressure.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And then I think Garvin stole it in mid match or whatever. I want to say we reviewed it. I
definitely watched it back recently because I watched all the Royal Rumbles, but I don't remember if we reviewed it or not.
Yeah. Let's see. We did review it back in 2021, so it is in the archives. I was going to say, I was like, I remember watching that damn thing and talking about it, but
yeah, because we were poking fun at him being the former NWA champion. Like this was the top guy in the NWA.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you lost to Valentine on TV. What good are you to me now?
It wasn't on TV. It was on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I know, but
how dare you?
Still. Oh, yeah, that makes it better.
It kind of does. It wasn't nationally televised in a technicality.
Right. Well, in the category of so ironic that Alanis Morissette would sing about it, Damien the Snake. At what? Damien the Snake has been suspended from the WWF for biting Jake Roberts twice in the past week.
Suspend a snake.
Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. So for the moment, the part
you named it Damien for crying out loud.
Yeah, right. It's not going to be.
You didn't see the evilness coming,
right? But for the moment, the part of Damien will now be played by a rubber hose in a bag.
Not Lucifer.
Yeah. To which I say,
what the fuck?
Why? this kind of like maybe the snake
That's
had
the
good
one
reason.
Earthquake smashes.
I think so. He makes Quake burgers out of them. Yeah. This is what makes me like think maybe the snake had good reason for biting his ass, because I think it was Bruce Pritchard kind of spilled the
Bit his
beans
ass?
on. Yeah. Well, I think Bruce Pritchard spilled the beans on. He said Jake treated them snakes like crap, and he forgot one in his trunk one night when they were driving from town to town, and it was in the middle of winter, and he comes out and the snake's frozen to death.
Oh man, how did Pete and I go after him?
Yeah, right. Well, might not have been a big thing back then, but that's just effing gross. First of all, second of all, I hate snakes. That's effed up. I feel bad for him. Just, dude, why would you give one of the most irresponsible people in your company an animal to care for?
Who are you going to give the snake to, Hulk Hogan?
Nobody. I feel like maybe it's just like we'll call you the snake. You don't actually have to carry a snake. You know, like how about that?
I'll bet he was extra cautious with that cobra.
Oh God, yeah. Well, had to be at that point. And wasn't it they brought in a gigantic effing snake that they were going to carry to the ring with them at one point for Survivor Series? And they just said this MFer's just way too damn big.
I think there was promos with them all holding it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I guess they were going to carry it to the ring.
I don't remember who, but I remember seeing the promo. Them all holding it, like in a straight line.
Yeah, and they said
like,
it was just
like a demonstration at a zoo or something. Hey, everyone line up, feel the snake.
Right. And these are gigantic, like, muscular men, by the way. And even they apparently had a hard time lifting it. They said it came in a gigantic crate. And then, came the practical, normal questions of, okay, if they walk this thing to the ring, there's a gigantic snake at ringside with people all around it. What if it, goes rogue? I mean,
so many windows in there. I'm only alone, but
yeah, right. Well, hey, Jake went rogue with a snake one time at Legends of Wrestling, Heroes of Wrestling. But
now in the archives.
No, we have not reviewed that one yet. But I want to get that one on the docket. Like I feel we should. That's a bonus.
You are in the head.
What? Hey, come on, man. Like you don't want to see some of the worst wrestling ever from some people.
I already watched this show that we're doing right now.
Well, some of the worst wrestling ever from guys that we grew up loving. That it's just like sad to see them as a shell of themselves. But anyway,
I watch Chris Jericho on AEW all the time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow, that one's. I'm gonna leave that one alone. But getting into the NWA side of things here, Sting went for his knee surgery this week, and Dr. James Andrews is recommending that he stay out of the ring until August. So the NWA is pretty much boned.
He will stay out until June, I believe.
Right.
Or maybe it was July, I forget.
Well, however, Sting is claiming that he'll be back by July using his weightlifting background to heal faster with magic or something. Because
when your knee is busted, you always want to just sit there and lift weights.
Exactly. That's
all that top heavy weight goes somewhere.
Yeah, when
who might have knocked it? It apparently works. So
when all the ligaments in your knee are just effed, the first thing you want to do is lift really heavy weights with it.
Oh.
But for some strange and unknown reason, the promotion is being totally honest with the fans on TV about this.
Strange reason.
Well, it is wrestling. And they're listing his recovery time as 6 months to 1 year, which is exactly what Sting was told. For what it's worth, Sting really did end up coming back way ahead of schedule.
This is when he beat Flair for the title, right?
Right. So, was he John Cena before John Cena was John Cena? I mean, he had the buzz cut at the time. So,
if there's anybody back in there you would compare to Cena, people will go right to Hogan. How's it not Sting?
Yeah, right. Well, he had the buzz cut. He had the tan. He was vascular.
Over with the girls.
Yeah, right. But his promos were a little less coherent, I would say. But he distracted you with the wooing and the bright colors and the shouting and yeah, just the excitement. It's like But the Ultimate Warrior, it was like after a while, you're like, the hell is this guy saying? With Sting, like he got away with it after a while. Like it honestly took me a while before I was
because
like,
usually
wait a
his
minute.
match is delivered.
Right. With Sting, it honestly took me years before I like started listening to his promos back in the day. I was like, God, like what the hell was he saying? Like he's just like was like whatever popped into his head. He's like, yeah. And there were actual promos where he's like, I don't have anything to say. Woo! Like at least he's honest. With WrestleWar coming up, Uncle Dave has no earthly idea how it will do with Lex Luger in the main event. There's just too many factors. Although TBS did record. Although TBS,
what did Luger do to anybody that ever made him all mad like this?
Dude, every dirt sheet writer ever craps on him hardcore. Yeah, I remember Keith Mitchell and I had an exchange about that one time because I was like he had said something backhanded about Luger or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I remember him winning. Like every time he won the world title, like the crowd just like blowing the roof off the place, unless he was heel or something.
Back and look at 1997 against Hogan.
Right, and he
in Michigan,
literally
go blue. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to speak over that and pretend it didn't happen. But Keith Mitchell literally tried to tell me, it's like, oh, no, nobody cared. I'm like, you could hear the ovation. I'm not deaf, dude. Like, oh, no,
people are really liberal with the word nobody, by the way, too.
He's like, well, no, I was there and I remember. I'm like, I have it on like you can watch it on any video ever, even the not like. And WWE doesn't go back and in post put in cheers to old WCW events.
You can put in audio. You can't. Stupid. I don't think you can. I guess you could if it takes a lot of work to digitally put people jumping out of their seats for things. You can put in audio, but you can't put in that.
Right. And then when it was so undeniable, like stuff like that, Uncle Dave tried to make excuses. Well, they just cheered the title change, and as soon as they realized what was happening after the show went off the air, then nobody gave a damn.
That's you get for Money in the Bank, sharing the cash in. Not here.
And he tries to, well, as soon as the cameras went off the air, people started booing or nobody gave a damn. It's like, shut the F up, man. It's like, you're just trying like any way you can. Whatever. But either way, getting back to this though, TBS did record ratings for this past 2 weeks. So maybe they can sell people on the show. In fact, although they're not historical highs or anything, they're still up double from the normal levels of 87 through 88, or excuse me, 87 through 89. And that's a really good sign. Yeah, I mean, Turner took over and they had an uptick for a while, but look, the first year they made any money at all was 1995. Eric Bischoff talked about that.
Who was on top of the company that year?
I think it was strictly Hogan all throughout 95. As far as I know. And that was his first full calendar year in the company, by the way.
Just pretty sad they had to use Vince's guy to get there.
Yeah, it sucked. But, yeah, I mean, hey, look, I love Ric Flair, and this isn't a knock on him, but he wasn't exactly bringing in great cable ratings, and he wasn't. I realize he's the guy. And I realize he's the guy on top. And there were years in the 80s where they did really well. But I don't know. Conrad talked about it with Eric Bischoff, and he brought some actual facts.
Might be sensitive to him.
So. Yeah, right. Hey, don't you diss on Pop. Anyway, Steve Williams was offered a severely reduced contract with the NWA, so he's going to make history as the first foreigner to work for both All Japan and New Japan at the same time and rake in cash in the process.
He's going to get that Herb Aprils money soon, too.
Yeah, right. Good Lord. Great. Yes. Blackjack Brawl, 1994. We had fun with it. I'll say that.
Go watch Dark Side of the Ring first.
Right. The show's like the actual pay-per-view we're covering sucked a high hard one, but the podcast was entertaining. But Great Muta and the Dragon Master both quit after the clash, although Uncle Dave notes that Dragon Master never should have been hired in the first place.
The hell's Dragon Master?
It was I don't know if you remember, it was like Gary Hart was his one manager, and then he had the Dragon Master as his other manager. I don't know who the
Dragon Master had the Dragon Master as his other manager.
Yeah, or Great Muta. Yeah, I'm sorry. Great Muta had Gary Hart and the Dragon Master
Remember
as
this
his
for the life of
two
me.
managers. Yeah, but he was there with him.
It was Sakurada, not the MMA guy, is it? No, it's Sakuraba. Okay, so
Okay.
the Black Ninja, Great Kendo, the White Ninja. He was the Black Ninja and the White Ninja.
Well, how about that?
Despite
Well,
being a Japanese man. Okay.
he came to the light side. That's
highly regarded by Bret Hart as a significant trainer.
Really. How about that? I don't know what the hell Uncle Dave had against him. I will say that I don't think he added anything to Muta's presentation, but he was there. I don't know. But anyway, the Muta
Saying I
issue
don't know what Dave had against him. You can apply that to a lot of people.
Yeah, right. But the Muta issue is largely being blamed on the bad influence of Gary Hart, who got into Muta's head from day one and convinced him that audiences would never cheer a Japanese babyface. Bookers tried repeatedly to turn Muta, and Muta kept turning them down because he was scared of losing his spot or not being over. This despite NWA audiences literally from day one, often cheering the supposed heel Muta louder than anyone other than maybe Sting. With Gary Hart
God, I hated him because he always beat up my guys. Had nothing to do with him being Japanese.
Oh,
He's just always beating up my guys.
Yep.
Specifically
Always
Sting.
heel, man. But with Gary Hart fired in December, it was hoped that Muta would come to his senses and agree to turn, but his attitude got worse and worse. And after Starrcade, he felt like he was being jobbed out and basically checked out at that point. Yeah, I think Jim Ross talked about that, where he said, like, he confirmed that about Gary Hart, because he said Gary managed heels and Muta was his meal ticket. And he knew that if Muta turned face, then there would be no Gary Hart, or no need for him. So he would lose his meal ticket. So he tried to convince Muta, oh, you don't want to turn face, brother. You need me. Yeah, God. This one, I don't know what the hell happened here, but I mean, it's addressed.
A reassuring start.
Well, it involves something on the show that we'll get to, but Danny Spivey vanished this past week and missed all the shows for unknown reasons. So
That's dangerous, Danny Spivey.
So it sure seems like Mean Mark will be getting another partner to work as a single.
He's on his way to Herb Abrams, I believe, Dan Spivey.
In 90?
I believe so. I believe he's in the AWA.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it AWA? No, it wasn't. What was it called?
UWF.
UWF, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah,
he's a couple years away from being Waylon Mercy.
Right, and being well past his prime by that point. Well, it's raining pink slips in the NWA this week. Say goodbye to the dynamic dudes, Rip Morgan and Jack Victory. Everyone who's Samoan.
Not Jack Victory.
The Midnight Express, Jim Cornette, and probably a few more. Uncle Dave hastens to clarify that this doesn't mean that they're fired, but it does mean that their contracts will
What the hell does it mean?
Their contracts will not be renewed at the same rate when they expire in May, and constitutes 90 days notice that they can be fired if they don't sign a new contract at that point.
None of that makes any sense. You're getting a pink slip for a lower contract, and if you don't resign, you're fired. If you don't resign, you're not there. How can you be fired if you haven't resigned? None of that makes any damn sense to me.
I know. That's like, that's like, I quit. No, you can't quit because you're fired.
I'm not coming in tomorrow because I quit. No, get that, you're fired.
But anyway, this is actually why the Iron Sheik got paid for a year without working, because his contract was set to renew, and no one gave him 90 days notice. So he just collected another $100,000 from Crockett.
Jim Herd.
And he collected another $100,000 from Crockett for a year when it automatically rolled over. The royal family weren't actually under contract, so they're fired legit. The company really the royal family was Jack Victory and Rip Morgan.
He's getting more royal than that, huh?
Yeah, right.
Well, I think royalty. I think King Jack Victory.
And Rip Morgan, man. I mean, come on. The guy that used to follow around the sheep herders and wave the flag. God. Anyway, the company really the company really wants to keep Cornette around and get rid of Eaton and Lane.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But
I think Eaton just leaves and they keep Elaine and Cornette. If I remember correctly, I think that's what Cornette said. Or maybe Stan Lane left.
Other way around, actually. Eaton ended up sticking around when the other two took off. Because
Cornette said he was just too damn loyal for his own good sometimes.
Yeah, well, he said Eaton needed the job and he was getting paid well, so he just stuck around. And whereas Stan Lane and Cornette were like, we don't need the money, so we're out.
Ironically, Stan Lane and Cornette eventually both go to WWE.
Yeah, right. But either way, the three of them insist on negotiating as a trio and thus annoying those in the front office.
They are a group.
Right. Basically, the feeling is that the Midnight Express has run their course in the company, and it's time to scale back the talent a lot.
Not to crap on him. You can only do so many Rock and Roll versus Midnight matches. I say that before we even do the show, mind you.
Yeah, right. Well, I get that. But the guy, I'm going to give credit to Scott Keith from Scott Keith's blog of Doom, where I get a lot of notes from. I've got to point this out. He pointed out, actually, was, I can't imagine looking at the NWA's roster in 1990 and being like, we need to cut some dead weight and whatever. And you cut the Midnight Express.
Probably the best tag team in the world at that point.
Yeah, right. We'll keep around these other people who aren't worth a damn. No, but let's cut Eaton and Lane because
we'll cut Flair while you're at it.
It's like who gives a damn about them? Oh, God, my head hurts. Speaking of talent and contracts here, an update on the Tully Blanchard contract. Tully now claims that he got his 176 dates, but they actually cut the money offer to $100,000. Either way, it wasn't worth it for him. $100,000. How's he going to eat?
In 1990, by the way.
I know, right?
$100,000 now might not be a lot of money for a wrestler, but 1990, holy crap!
I get that was. I most likely it was a pay cut for him, especially when he's like, "Wow, that kind of money isn't worth it." Like, okay, so it was probably a pay cut for him.
Didn't he just come back?
Well, yeah. Well, god dang, dude. Like, you just got turned down for a job from the. Like, they didn't even want to hire you, period, earlier. And the WWF isn't an option right now. You're just gonna say, "F it, I don't need this job." Like, what? I don't even know how to respond to that.
Maybe don't respond to it. Won't hurt your head.
It's just like, where the hell else are you gonna go? Whatever. But, God, speaking of where the hell else are you going to go, the El Gigante experiment in NWA begins anew as they're training him again and want him ready to debut in May. Yeah. So that's a thing. So the NWA were also trying to sign Buster Douglas to be the referee for the Flair Luger match, but that didn't happen. I wonder why. So you mean Ted Turner wasn't willing to shell out for him? Oh, God. Anyway.
The guy who beat the guy.
Yeah. So
say that one more time.
To the USWA, where the Southern Rockers, real team, won the tag titles from Stud
Lazy
Stable.
Naming.
From Stud Stable on February 12th in Memphis, and they proceeded to win them every night that week over and over again. This was actually a very common thing all the way up until the 90s, when people suddenly had internet access and could find out about title changes in other towns. And you don't get much more Southern wrestling than that. Also, Junkyard Dog made an impromptu challenge to Jerry Lawler on the February 12th show and pinned him in seconds, which Uncle Dave notes sets up this year's version of Flair versus Steamboat.
Holy hell.
Oh, he's a dick, but that's kind of funny.
When I was a kid, I loved the Junkyard Dog, but no.
Yeah, right. Kevin Von Erich, who had missed a bunch of shows for the usual Von Erich reasons, suddenly returned and claimed that
hold on. Educate me here. What are the usual reasons?
I'd never known him as a drug guy, so I'm going to assume he just didn't want to be there and blew it off. So yeah, but he claimed that he'd been on a world tour.
Hey, careful when you talk about the Von Erichs on this show. You get in trouble.
Oh, I know. Well, he said he'd been on a world tour, and Scott Keith of the blog of Doom said, yeah, of his couch.
Scott Keith. I'm just going to take a stab in the dark guess here. White guy?
I don't know what he looks like, but good guess.
Scott Keith, come on, dude.
I want to say he's a foreigner as well. Like, and when I say foreigner, I mean, like, I think he's British or Canadian or some crap. I don't even know.
Who the hell is he?
I don't know. He writes for he has the blog of Doom, which you can find. Scott,
is he Australian guy? You said?
No, I think he's
like 5,000 Scott Keith.
I think he's Canadian. You can find him on Twitter. I want to say this is his. Actually, yeah, he's from Saskatchewan, so he's Canadian. From the hand in his picture, he's definitely white, and being Canadian also confirms that. Dude. Right. But if you want to follow him on Twitter, I think this is his legit page. It's at RSPWFAQ. Sure. I don't know. But yeah, he does a lot with, like I said, the blog of Doom and whatever. So go check that out. It's kind of funny at times, but yeah, he's born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Edmonton, dramatic pause, Alberta, Canada.
Exactly. So there you go. And so anybody out there, trying to find like news and notes and stuff on various classic pro wrestling events and even current ones, you might come across Scott Keith a time or two. But either way, getting back to this, to Oregon, where Art Beetlejuice Barr introduced new partner Jeff Wagner as the Big Juicer.
Wow.
Excuse me, Jeff Warner, not Wagner. Uncle Dave is
the Big Juicer. Holy crap! Why would you call yourself that? I look at a picture of him here. Yeah, I can. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not gonna assume he did it.
Uncle Dave.
He is a ripped mofo.
Well, Uncle Dave is raffle-mowing at that name, so there you go. Ah, God. Well, that.
He just went by Big Juice, Jeff Warner.
Wow. Now, see, I was going, like, my mind was in the gutter, like, thinking, like, sexual innuendos with it, but
you said juice, I went right to steroids, especially with wrestling.
Yeah, that makes more sense. So, there you go. Oh, man. Anyway, let's go to George Scott's TV tapings for some indie promotion in the Northeast.
Dude, you know this guy teamed with? He teamed with Scotty Flamingo.
Well, there you go, man. That's your claim to fame. Flamingo Juice. Should have been their team name.
Wow. That sounds like a horrible alcoholic drink.
Yeah, right. It's got a little pink umbrella in it. But anyway, it's Scott Keith's TV tapings for his indie promotion in the Northeast. He's using guys like Ricky Steamboat, John Studd, and Bob Orton. However, the guy that they're currently pushing most is newcomer Vince Torelli, a former amateur wrestling star who is green but really talented with lots of potential. His real name, Ken Shamrock.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. Ken Shamrock got into wrestling back in 1990 as a wee rookie. I would say this, as a kid watching the Attitude Era, like, he was never one of the guys like you think would appeal to kids and stuff like that. But I was a pretty big Ken Shamrock fan, like in the late 90s.
I remember in New Orleans, I thought I'd ask them, why did you ever get a title run? They didn't like me.
Well, according to Jim Ross, they wanted to give him the title. He said they never pulled the cord with him because he said Kenny was always wanting to go back to MMA, and they were like, why would we invest in this guy if he's not sticking around? Plus, he said
Cornette had an idea to get him the title, not in a traditional way. His idea, he said, was to make him be the guy that faced Bret Hart in Montreal and make him tap out.
Yeah, right. And with as many,
that might have worked. I could be wrong, but,
as much of Bret Hart as a pro wrestler, I'm sure was could shoot on people and could stretch them. But Ken Shamrock is a lethal freaking weapon.
At the point we're talking about too, he's probably the best mixed martial artist in the world.
Yep. The world's most dangerous man was not just a moniker; it was a fact. But yeah, I love Ken Shamrock. But they also said Ken Shamrock or Jim Cornette said there were a few times that they didn't want to pull the cord with him because he said he would show up late or miss dates or whatever, and he said he just felt like he wasn't dedicated. So he's like, yeah, we can't invest in a guy like that. Which, you can say whatever you want about Brock Lesnar, right? Yeah, and you can say whatever you want about Brock Lesnar or whatever, but I've never heard of him. Yeah, well, I've never heard of him no showing or big dogging him or anything like that. So, yeah, he left, his first run in WWE, but he came back and apparently he's been doing great business ever since then. Like nobody's ever, I don't even think accused him of,
showed up on Raw Monday night and the place blew.
Right. Yeah, he's still over all these years later. So it's funny you mentioned the Hart family though, because this story isn't about the Harts necessarily, but it's it's Canadian. The new CNWA promotion in Calgary is just death, with crowds dropping.
Calgary what?
Huh?
Calgary what?
Alberta, Canada.
You're gonna say you better get it right, dude.
Wow.
Disrespectful.
But they have a product so sanitized that everyone acts like baby faces straight out of the 1940s, even the heels. It's just
that
terrible.
sounds like fun.
Yeah, right. And now, to the AWA, as The Trooper was advertised as working a tag title match with Paul Diamond against the Destruction Crew, but he told them that he wouldn't be there due to prior commitments. So, to explain his absence to the crowd of 100 or so people, they announced that the Trooper's parents were in a car wreck the night before and died.
What the fuck?
There's like a billion other things you could have said.
Because Vern Gagne was not a good
How about,
person?
hey, he couldn't make it because he's injured or he's sick?
Nope, parents died.
That's disgusting, dude.
I know. I think Vern had legit lost his mind at this point. This is just wow. Also on that show,
You
John
use death
Nord.
as an excuse.
Yeah, I know. But also on that show, John Nord worked against a big stiff named
Us. Sorry.
He worked against a big stiff named the Night Stalker. He would go on to become Brian Clark, a.k.a. Adam Bomb, a.k.a. Raph.
A big stiff. Tell me you wrote that.
I gotta give that one to Uncle Dave, but yeah.
Big stiff.
I'm sure that big bastard throws a stiff clothesline like that Rhino.
It reminds me of that episode of Fresh Prince. Do you remember that one where Uncle Phil's like, why do I always gotta be the heavy? We'll just look at it. Is that heavy?
Oh, man. Final story I got here. This one is, speaking of heavy. In Puerto Rico, Hercules Ayala got indicted on 2 counts of dealing cocaine out of his store, and the trail starts in April. Today.
Sorry, I got
today.
tickles.
Today, Greg, wrestlers make second careers in video gaming or podcasting. In the 90s, they dealt drugs.
Hey, Flair opened a weed farm, didn't? Isn't Jim Ross doing it too?
I know Kevin Nash has his own kind of weed. But yeah, I know. Well, Jim Ross sells barbecue sauce. I don't know about the weed.
I'm pretty sure he said somebody's doing weed too.
For God's sake. Well, you smoke a lot of this, you're going to want to eat a lot of barbecue. Sassafras.
You do. You get into wheat and then you open a bakery. Boom.
Any kind of food product. It doesn't matter. Oh, God. You're literally servicing both ends. But we're going to take our next break. When we come back from this, we're going to dive into the event at hand. After this.
Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Thomas, and what's your name?
I'm Alan. Yeah. We're brothers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot
The
that.
same mother and father.
Your room was...
Oh, we shared the room.
Shared a room.
We shared the room.
Thought I knew your face.
Yeah,
from
we go
somewhere.
way back, mate. Yeah.
We should do a podcast then.
We have.
We do a podcast.
We do a podcast.
What's it called?
The
Broadcast.
Yeah, that was planned.
Yeah, well.
What do we do?
Well, we cover all different things in the world of pop culture. We're talking about comic books, we're talking about professional wrestling, and we're talking about movies. Go back and watch classic retro wrestling events, the likes of WWE, WCW, and if you do like that, you can check us out on Apple iTunes, also on Podbean, Anchor, and on Podknife. Also check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast. That's BROKAST. Nearly stuffed up the ending.
No, it's all right. Good on you.
Yeah. Instagram also at The Broadcast Podcast.
Remember, we don't spell it with a C. We spell it with a K.
Sorry, mate.
Take it easy.
Listen, homeboy, you gather
The
around.
main event marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/main event marks.
Of entomology, Lex Luger, the bell.
And we're back.
We're back.
WCW WrestleWar 1990. The date was February 25th,
Yeah, the
1990.
show happened.
The tagline, Wild Thing. Yeah. The venue was the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Kakalaki. Excuse me, in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Carolina.
The attendance was 9,894. Not terrible. That's a decent crowd for the NWA, definitely. Well, the buy rate was 1.60, which amounted to about 175,000 buys. Again, not bad for the NWA. We start off with a music video that I can only describe as only slightly better than Wrestle Rock Rumble. Please tell me you get that reference.
No.
The AWA's Wrestle Rock Rumble, you've never seen that?
Wrestle Rock Rumble. I thought it sounds like a video game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like a Super Nintendo wrestling game or something.
You and our listeners have not lived until you've seen Nick Bockwinkel and Larry Zbyszko rapping.
Oh, well, I saw Larry Zbyszko and Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall rapping for the AWA.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Video
talking
on-
about.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Then yeah, I did
that's
see
the-
that.
Yeah,
I
that's
see
the
the show.
Wrestle Rock Rumble. Yep. It was the name. It was the name of a show.
Yeah, I've seen the promo.
Right. It was the name of. They actually had a show called the Wrestle Rock Rumble, and they made a music video for it, where they would get the talent in AWA to rap.
Because when I think rap, man, I think Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall.
Yeah, 'cause when I think of rap, I think old white guys from Minnesota.
In the 90s.
Right. Ugh. But anyway, this time they're rapping about WrestleWar, though. So, and the war here is on my ears.
It's a war on all your senses.
We now go to the commentary team of Jim Ross and Terry Funk. Funk says that he is the Wild Thing, and he calls Ross Jimbo Diddley.
So it's a Texas boy and an Oklahoma boy. I don't think they're getting along.
You damn Sooners. Your mother's a whore. Anyway, we find out that Sting is injured here and won't be competing tonight. Now, we're sent to Gordon Sully, standing by with Theodore R. Long. Long says that tonight, I didn't know this was his nickname.
Yeah,
ever,
by the way,
but-
happy birthday. We started the match, by the way. Welcome to the show. Send to the back.
Yep. Well, welcome to WrestleWar. This is Terry Funk, and I'm Jim Ross. To the back!
Holla, holla, holla.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to do after coming in from a rapping music video to open the show is go right to the two whitest Southern boys I can think of. But Gordon Sully's,
Not fair. Barry Windham was involved.
but Gordon Sully's standing by with Teddy Long, and Long says that tonight he's not dancing Teddy Long, which I had no idea that was his nickname. He says he's Sugar Ray Long, which doesn't make sense, but okay.
Well, he looks like Mark McGrath a little bit.
God. Long informs us that Dan Spivey is hurt. Sure. So he's going to be replaced.
Look at it. Someone's hurt. Not someone died. Look at that.
Hey, y'all, Dan Spivey couldn't make it tonight because his family died. Anyway, but he says he's got a replacement that's just as good. Oh, well, thank God. It's just as good as Dan Spivey.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say no.
Right. Look, you and I both said Dan Spivey's not bad, but you're not replacing Ric Flair. That's not exactly like the highest of bars to clear.
Right.
And somehow he managed to undershoot that bar. So good for him, I guess.
Like to replace Scott Hall with Eric Young.
Oh, God. But he also says... Right. He also says that he's got a big surprise tonight, and he's not going to reveal it just yet. Cool.
Oh, that means they're making us watch through this crap.
Yeah. But our first match of the night is...
Oh, here we go. Now, this first match, by the way, hold on. This first match right here is where you trip me up. Because you said something about them being fired, and here they are. Oh.
Yeah, right. That's why... Frickin' Dave. It's like, okay, so they're not fired. They're being told you have to re-sign a contract at a lower rate. I don't think.
So I was going to mention that, but I didn't want to get too off topic. But even though we always do, you said the dynamic dudes. I'm like, wait, how can they be fired? They're on the show,
right? Unfortunately, but yeah. Anyway, it is Kevin Sullivan and Buzz Sawyer taking on the dynamic dudes of Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas. It goes for 10 minutes, 15 seconds. I'll say this, the crowd actually cheers for the dudes. Cool. But what a damn...
Would you cheer for the dynamic dudes if you were a kid in the 90s? Let's look at them. I'm not even being sarcastic. Look at them. They're the epitome of white meat baby face.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. They're colorful. They got the bleach blonde hair. They're tan. They jump around. Yeah, I might have. I don't know. My era of when I first started watching wrestling, those kind of characters were fading out. So I really don't know how I would have responded, to be honest with you. But, man, speaking of that, what a damn contrast in looks between these teams.
You got the Necro Butcher on one side with the Devil Worshiper and the dynamic dudes.
Good Lord. Yeah, Buzz Sawyer. Okay, well, I got a comment about it here in a minute, but look, I couldn't give a damn about this match. I was bored to tears. It felt like 20 minutes, not 10.
Look, I'm going to get a lot of crap, but I don't care. I never thought Kevin Sullivan was good. I'm sorry, ever.
No.
I've never once saw a Kevin Sullivan match like, man, that guy's good.
Right. The best I ever saw him in were the street fights with him and Benoit.
Yeah.
It was it.
And I want to point out what you just said, by the way. Not even a wrestling match. What did you say? Right. Street fight, right? Yeah.
I think it was a street fight. Yeah. But Buzz Sawyer looks like someone's drunk uncle who never gets invited to the family get-togethers, but yet still manages. Right. He's the drunk uncle that never gets invited to the family get-togethers, but he still somehow manages to know when they are, and he shows up anyway.
Who the hell told Uncle Buzz about this? There's a reason his name is Buzz, by the way.
I've never met a white guy named Buzz that didn't look like this. Just saying. It's like, Uncle Buzz showed up. Who the hell invited him? He's already deep into a six-pack at this point. He brings his own cooler everywhere he goes.
And that baby is loaded.
Yeah, right. But he...
Oh, I gotta look at something real quick. I want to make sure. Okay, don't crap on us. No one's crapping on the man. I know he's passed away, but no one's crapping on the man. Sorry. Guess we kind of.
He's passed away. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I was talking about his looks. Okay. If anybody has a problem with that, just too bad. I don't know what to tell you, man. That's. Yeah. But anyway,
he died in Sacramento. Pretty close to me.
No. Sorry for his loss, but nah, I'm kidding. But anyway, for some God knows why reason, Buzz Sawyer wins after hitting a diving splash off the top onto Johnny Ace for the pin. I
actually felt bad for Johnny Ace too. I thought he broke his neck.
Right. Well, he had to have that guy diving on him.
Did you notice the way he was holding his neck though? I kind of felt bad for him.
I didn't notice that part. No. Wow. Well, I gave it a star, whereas Uncle Dave gave it 2.25. Let's say you.
I gave it 1. I want to know where the hell that quarter comes from.
I'm like,
First of
why,
all, too way
Dave?
too high. Where the hell's that quarter at?
Right. Like this match sucked. It was boring. Like, why was this a thing? But you got to get Buzz Sawyer and Kevin Sullivan on the show, man. My God. The hell ever. We now go backstage with Missy Hyatt standing by with Norman.
Yeah, it's like this isn't going to get weird or anything.
Right. It's Norman with multiple teddy bears. Norman and his bears are all wearing Sting headbands. That's a sentence which I have said. Missy wishes Norman luck in his match against Cactus Jack Manson. Mick Foley wrote in his book, by the way, that he hated that name and never wanted to be associated with Charles Manson.
Why the hell would you ever use that name ever?
He said it was thrust upon him. He said, I think he came up with Cactus Jack, and then I can't remember who gave him the name Manson. And he said, yeah, I'll just go with Cactus Jack. And they're like, no, this will make you more intimidating. It's like,
I guess it could have been worse. It could have been Cactus Jack Hitler.
My God, you go to the worst.
Well, I mean, come on. It's like Charles Manson's exactly a choir boy. He's a piece of crap, too.
Well, yeah, right.
I'm just saying the only way it can get worse.
Yeah, what? Hey,
not to sit here and rank pieces of crap or anything.
I need a stage name. Maybe Joseph Stalin. Yeah.
Because apparently this was a bad guy. And
who would have known? Oh, God. Man. But anyway, Norman says Missy reminds him of his sister, but his sister is a much bigger. God.
And he does this for his sister?
Yeah, I just like, all I could think of was he like leans in real close. He's like, you smell like the inside of my mama's purse. But he gets a hug and kiss out of Missy, and he tries to get a kiss on the lips, and Missy says that she just heard the bell and has to go. Oh, my God.
You blame the guy. She was all the way live back then.
Hell yeah.
Now, no, I'm good.
This, right. This comes from, like, this reminds me of that meme now, where it was like, Norman was definitely one of those guys in school who, whenever he saw a girl in school, he was like, hey, where's my hug?
For those who may not know, by the way, Norman the Lunatic, you know who he is. Tell him.
Well, I will say this. At one point, he was Norman the Lunatic. Then they dropped it. And now he's just Norman, even though he's still a mental patient, I guess. But, he's a good kind of mental patient.
Who was he? WWE, I'm saying.
And then, well, first he's Friar Ferguson. And then he's Bastion Booger. Ugh. God dang it, Bell. He's
the Booger.
Fat.
Real theme, by the way.
Yep. And I like how...
I'm still stuck on Cactus Jack Manson.
I like how Norman gets there and they're like, oh, well, like Bruce Pritchard actually said this when he was asked about the Bastion Booger gimmick. He's like, well, he was really out of shape by the time he got to us. Yeah, because he's felt here in NWA.
Yeah, he looked like, another Lex Luger here.
Right. God. But anyway, it's Cactus Jack Manson versus Norman in about 3
How did they not go with Cactus Jack the Ripper? If they had to throw something else on there?
Yeah, I guess
not
so.
That would be good, mind you, but...
Right. This goes about 9.5 minutes. Norman comes out to some generic harmonica music, which is funny because Terry Funk compares him to Roseanne.
Holy crap. I didn't even piece that together.
To those who don't get it, look up the Roseanne theme. So, yeah. But the crowd cheers.
Also, by the way, early Monday Night Raw, Macho Man was hitting on her on commentary. So I think he had dibs on that.
God. By the way,
I heard her Tom Arnold got divorced. That means she's single now?
Good Lord.
This is a real thing, folks. Raw 1994, I think I'm on. Late 94.
Tom Arnold.
I want to say it's like a couple Raws right before he left. Because Mixing Man says on the air that he couldn't come to new contracts, and he's gone. A couple episodes before that, he's hitting on Roseanne on commentary. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, Tom Arnold, who most definitely 100% did not marry Roseanne Barr to boost his stock in Hollywood. Nope, not at all. Never.
Wait, the lead on the #1 show in the world? No.
Yeah, right. By the way, I never watched Roseanne. I didn't care for it, but I had no idea it was on in 90. Like, I didn't realize how old that
I think
show
it started
was.
in 88, if I remember correctly.
Wow. You think about the career Johnny Galecki's had, man. Like, he's on one of the most popular Christmas movies of all time, probably still making money off of it. He was on Roseanne. Then he was on Big Bang Theory. Like, that guy's got to be just like, he's got to have like a Scrooge McDuck vault at this point.
Right. And I think Big Bang had obviously more revenue coming in because like the time, the era.
Yeah, right. And now it's on HBO Max, so yeah, and that's still one of the most watched shows on that service. So there you go.
If you watch it, you're called a big banger, according to Jim Cornette.
Mother
That's
of God.
when AEW's ratings fall off. It's because the big bangers tuned out.
Wow. Well,
it's a real thing, by the way. He calls them big bangers.
nice. Well, anyway, get back to this, though. The crowd cheers a lot for Norman, letting me know that these people would have cheered for a babyface taking a big dump in the center of the ring. They just cheered for the dynamic dudes, and now Norman, like, all right.
I'm sorry. Did people in WWE see this, by the way, and get the inspiration for Eugene?
Oh, God. I don't even know. I would think either that or they keep doing it. Like you and I discussed this before. It was Norman, Dave Sullivan, Eugene. Like, quit it. Like, why is this a thing?
I want to sit here and say maybe they just wanted some handicap representation. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be making someone who's not handicapped. I wouldn't be doing that.
Right. Well, in WWE, like, you could kind of, maybe they were
It's kinda
trying
like
to do some good.
It's kind of like back when they needed like black representation. They turned Akeem into the American Dream or African Dream.
Oh my God. We get another dated reference from Jim Ross, who compares Norman to Haas Cartwright from Bonanza. I want to say that show went off the air in the 70s. It's not all Vince.
Did I message you this the other day when I was watching one of the old Royal Rumbles and Real Monsoon called Hogan the greatest professional athlete in the world today? I'm just thinking about like, man, it's not a dated reference when he said, but it's like at the time, I'm just like hearing it in real time now. I'm like, wow, that was a thing back then. Like he says the greatest professional athlete in the world today, and Jesse Ventura says greater than Joe Montana and Michael Jordan. I mean, now we look at these guys with such high esteem. Like, man, these are greats. Like at the time, they were just players. Just weird.
Yeah, wow, it's nuts. But either way, so I couldn't wait for this one to end either. Cactus Jack tries for a sunset flip, but Norman beats him with a trip to the Batcave. Even though that's not what he called it at this time. And I don't know if that was ever the official name for it, but yeah. Uncle Dave gave this a 1.5 stars. I gave it a star. Say you.
This is going to be a statement here, but I gave it 1 star because this was the worst match of the night.
Wow, even worse than the one before this, eh?
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah.
At least there was stuff going on in there, not a million bear hugs.
Yeah, this. Well, I didn't expect to see much out of Norman, but yeah, you know what? Credit to him. I gave him 0 expectations, and he exceeded them by being worse. So cool. We now go backstage with Gordon Sully interviewing Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. Cornette says that things change, but the Midnight Express never changes. They're always the best in the business. Another thing that never changes is the fact that they hate the Rock and Roll Express. And
at this point right here, I'm like, why did Jim Cornette never get into being an auctioneer as fast as he talks?
Yeah, right. You think he would have just cleaned up in that profession. And, you know, he had to have a lot of the stuff, like, rehearsed and whatnot, and then he just, like, as soon as they...
listen to his damn podcast, he just dropped some crazy lines just randomly. And I'm like, I don't think he rehearsed it. I think he's just that quick.
Some of the lines he drops, like, on his podcast when he's uncensored, it's like, God, like, how did you come up, like, come up with that crap? Like, why? Who says that? But anyway, we now get to the Rock and Roll Express. Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson taking on the Midnight Express of Sweet Stan Lane and Beautiful Bobby Eaton with Jim Cornette in their corner. This goes for 19 and a half minutes. It's funny, given where things ended up 30 years later, that Sweet Stan announces Jim Cornette as, quote, the man who stole Ivana away from Donald Trump.
Oh, man.
Then Jim Cornette follows that up by saying, I didn't even know he liked girls.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Okay, so he's never liked him. Okay.
Like, what the crap? Like, he's not even pulling any punches. He's just like, I thought he liked men. Mother of God.
Anybody hear some in the background? By the way, my chair is squeaky. Sorry.
How dare you sit in a squeaky ass chair?
Hey, I bought it from Walmart. Okay.
Hey,
Boom.
your pay's getting docked. Damn it! Your pay of $1.
Oh, great. What am I going to do? I have to pay you now?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm docking your pay of $0.00. Damn it. But anyway, getting to this. At one point, Cornette gets on the apron and repeatedly jabs his finger into referee Nick Patrick's chest. Nick returns a chest poke, and Cornette comes in to challenge.
Piss out of you, dude.
Cornette comes in to challenge him to a fist fight. This turns into a stupid comedy spot where Cornette flops out of the ring.
The same stuff that Cornette today mocks the hell out of on his show.
People point that out to him, and he's like, "Oh, well, when I was doing it is because it was my gimmick." And it's like, and like that's people.
And it's not Orange Cassidy's,
yeah,
or Danhausen.
Nope, can't use that excuse. He wrestled a dude in a turtle suit, but that wasn't stupid. But Morton gets the knees up to block a rocket launcher, and then he makes the hot tag to Robert. He gets a racket and to the back from Cornette, but kicks out of a pin at 2. Finally, Ricky is late to break up a flapjack attempt, so Robert gets out himself and pins Stan Lane to win. I don't think this is one of the team's best matches. I feel like it dragged on a bit too long.
Dave, I clocked it over 20 minutes.
Yeah, well,
and you sent me a note ahead of time about this, so I was like, I'm gonna put a clock on this. I'm like, oh my God, you weren't lying.
Supposedly, the match bell to bell was 19 and a half, but I don't know. I
had it over 20 minutes, but
wow,
I might have included the entrances. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. Well, Uncle Dave gave this 4.25 stars.
Get the hell out.
I gave it 3. I thought it was good, not great. What say you?
I gave it 2.
Yeah, it was fine. Like I said, not one of their best, but it is what it is. Either way, backstage, Gordon Sully is standing by with the Road Warriors and Paul Ellering. Hawk says to prepare for their Chicago street fight. They went back to Chicago, slept in streets.
Didn't we just mention this in the last episode?
Yes.
Wherever they are, you got to throw the name of the city on there. I think we just said it, didn't we?
Yep, the city name street fight. Yeah, God. But to prepare for this, they went back to Chicago, slept in streets, alleys, and gutters, and put 16 men in the hospital. I need a little bit more info here because cops are probably looking for you at this point. And being on national
you're sitting
TV,
here live on TV.
Yeah, right. Don't think that's the smartest, but either way. We now get to this. It is Mean Mark Callous and the Masked Skyscraper with Teddy Long taking on the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, with Paul Ellering. The Chicago street fight that lasts about 5 minutes.
So I had to go look this up. Do you know who the guy in the mask was?
Yes, actually. So no one knew, or at least on commentary, nobody had a name to call him, but he was a big jacked up masked guy. All I know is this was 100% not Jack Victory this time.
High spot.
Go ahead. Tell us who it is.
Mike effing Enos.
Hell yes.
Whose claim to fame is being in the ring with Scott Hall debuted on Nitro in May of 1996.
Damn right.
And is one of the Beverly Brothers.
Oh, yeah. He's the one whose son is not currently in NXT.
Yeah, right. probably happy about that. That was his son. I'd be ashamed too because Von Wagner sucks.
How dare you? Anyway, but the Road Warriors ride to the ring on the backs of motorcycles while red pyro lines the entry ramp. That was pretty cool. One other note I want to point out before we go. In looking up this thing for who was under the mask, I also came across a note that Mean Mark was replacing Sid. Oh my God! So both of them were replacements. Gosh. Well, and I do want to revise my statement a little bit. Like the LOD entrance was cool, but it was made a little less cool by the fact that Hawk and Animal rode. No,
and there was no Rocco the Dummy.
Oh God, yeah, because that would have made it better. Riding and having a dummy. But anyway,
just in case people think you're being offensive, tell them what riding means.
Oh, it just means like being on the back. There you go. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's a popular motorcycle shirt that the back of it says, "If you can read this, the fell off."
Wow.
Well,
that's messed up but clever.
I saw somebody riding a motorcycle wearing that shirt, and they did not have a back seat. So that made me think, are you referring to the seat? Like, did that fall off? Or something else? Anyway, getting to the actual
Why
match
is
here.
it on a motorcycle, a guy will put his wife behind him, but like on a bike, people will put the dog in a basket in front of them? You notice that?
Well, you don't want to put a basket on a motorcycle, I guess. I don't freaking know.
I'm just saying in general, not the actual thing, but like you put your animal in front of you, but the woman behind you.
I don't know. Maybe they just want to feel breasts on their back. I don't know.
I can buy that.
Yeah. But the team of Doom ends up making their way to the ring in tuxedos at one point.
The team of Doom.
And Teddy Long hangs out with them on the ramp. Mean Mark gets dumped over the top, and the Masked Man takes the Doomsday device for the pinfall loss. By the way, Enos sucked. I don't know if he always sucked. Why? I haven't seen enough Mike Enos matches to know. Did he always suck, or is this like? I'm
not going to say he has, but I'm going to say I've never seen anything that made me believe otherwise. So.
Okay. Well, I was going to say I didn't know if
I'm not going to be one of these guys who's sitting flat out says he's always sucked. I don't know. I'm not a Mike Enos super fan. I don't know if they even exist, but
how dare you? Mike F. and Enos, man. That's his full Christian name, by the way. But Uncle Dave gave this a 1.25. I gave it 2 stars, below average. What say you?
I gave it 2. It wasn't that bad.
Nah, I've seen worse. I mean, that's not saying a whole lot, but I've seen worse.
I'm wondering what's going to happen. What's going to become of all these guys? What's this Mean Mark guy going to do?
He's going to disappear and never be heard from again until we get a random Mattel figure from him, all these decades later.
Someone pointed out to me that I need to go get another one and get a Sid and put those chaps on him.
Oh, F yeah. God, I have a Sid. I don't have a Mean Mark. But Teddy Long gets back in the ring, and the Road Warriors press to throw him over the top rope and into the arms of Doom. Into the arms of Doom. Doom now gets in the ring ready to fight, going punch for punch with the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors eventually clear the ring, and Teddy Hart tells Ron Simmons and Butch Reed to leave with him. Okay, then. We now go back.
You know what I've never realized till now?
What?
That the announcer always called him they said Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, the team of Doom.
Yeah.
Were they trying to get it across as like the team of Doom, or they are the team called Doom? You know what I mean? I'm not hearing it. Like the team of Doom.
Right. I think it's one of them where it's like it could be either or, maybe. I don't know. It's a good way of looking at it, though. But we now go back to commentary for a little while, so Jim Ross can let us know that every match for the rest of the card will be for championships. Cool. And now we get Flyin Brian and the Z-Man defending the NWA United States Tag Team titles against the fabulous Freebirds of Michael P.S. Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin. This goes 24.5 effing minutes. I never liked the Freebirds in long matches. I am sorry. I don't know if that offends anybody's sensibilities, but yeah.
You will.
But we get a jump start as the baby faces drop kick the taunting heels out of the ring. They put on their jackets and dance around for a while as their theme plays. That was funny. In the end, crap breaks down and Pillman dives off the top rope with a crossbody onto Jimmy Garvin with a pinfall win. Uncle Dave gave this a half a star. I'm like, were we watching two different matches? I gave it 2.5 for average. What say you?
I gave it 2.
Well, that was fine. Not great. It's fine.
Anything with a Z-Man, and he already got my attention.
Oh, hell yeah.
Although I don't think he was the Z-Man here.
Well, he's the Z-Man. So, I don't know why that was a thing.
I feel like that name came about because Sting called me randomly in a promo.
Yeah.
I got the Z-Man here.
Like, what does that mean? I don't know. His last name starts with Z. Okay, but what is it? I don't know. F you, that's why. Whatever.
Where's the Y-Man? And the X-Man are owned by Marvel, so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, the Z-Man. Like, the Z-Men sounds like some, like, dollar store knockoff version of toys. Get.
Wow.
It's like he's got claws and, like, laser eyes at the same time. But after the match, Jimmy Garvin drops Flyin Brian with a DDT, and the Freebirds take a powder to the back. Now we go to this. I already know what you're going to say. It's the Steiner Brothers of Rick and Scott Steiner. They're defending the NWA World Tag Team titles against the Minnesota Wrecking Crew of Ole and Arn Anderson. This goes for about 16 minutes. Rick wears a sign to the ring that says Sting's Revenge.
So stupid.
Okay.
It was at this point, by the way, my note here is like, good grief, how many freaking tag matches are on this show?
Right. Well, and he had it, you notice he had it pinned to his jacket like a little kid being put on the bus by his mom.
An episode of the 70s show with Kelso. If you don't understand, it's the explanation is pinned to my lapel.
What the hell? Oh my God. But anyway, so it's at this point that I realize Sting isn't even there tonight, and he's all over the show. Well, I guess he is there, but it's weird. But in the end, the Andersons throw Rick against the ropes and bend over. That sounded wrong. Rick kicks Arn in the head, and he gets a small package on Ole. Ole's bent over for the win. Oh man. Uncle Dave gave this 2.25 stars. It was one of the best things I've seen tonight, so I gave it 3, but it still wasn't great. What say you?
I gave it 2 words. Go blue.
F off. That's it's OHIO. There's no blue. All right.
That doesn't roll off the tongue well.
Ours is a callback. But either way, after the match, the Andersons take out the Steiners, hold Scott's arm, and only dives off the middle rope with a knee to the elbow. And they go on commentary. Well, they're trying to break his arm. Terry's losing his mind. My horse is sick.
Damn you, Ole and Arn. Your mothers are whores.
You can combine the two. Your mother's a horse. And she's sick. Anyway.
I think this is a good time for me to get this in because I'm excited as hell. We're finally getting Mattel Steiner Brothers.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah,
and I'm hoping these are the two that come out first. Right here. This era.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so Scott is finally allowing them to make a figure of him. How about that? We go to
according to his own words, he's only working with them now. You allow the Hall of Fame because of Braun Breaker.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, whatever works, man. You know, put aside the sour grapes for a little bit. We now go to pre-recorded comments with Lex Luger, who is being interviewed by Gordon Sully. Luger says that he's nervous, but he's coming for Ric Flair. All he can think of is Power Slam, the rack. He says that no one has ever gotten out of the torture rack. Next, we go to
Power Slam, the rack.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I say that, I get slapped.
It's like, what? But we now go to commentary for a minute.
Quick. when I've been watching, like I said, I've been watching back old WWE stuff. I did not know this, and I did notice this early on, but USA Lex Luger didn't use the torture rack. And when he started using it, they called it the Rebel Rack. I did not know that. Rebel Rack.
When was that?
1995? 94, late 94. I'm on late 94 when I started using it.
Wow.
Also the Rebel Rack.
I had no idea. Good Lord. That sounds awful. But anyway, we got a commentary for a minute here. And you got to think Terry Funk is taking a shot at Gorilla Monsoon because he keeps saying, this is an event. This is not a happening.
Why do you assume that?
Yeah. And he says it like he's angry. Like he says it during the main event too. He's like, this is not a happening. This is an event. It's like, I don't get it. Like,
I still am struggling to figure out what the hell a happening is.
Well, the way Terry Funk kind of sort of explained it was he said, well, this isn't happening by happenstance. It's not some happening. He's like, this is an event and a big deal and it's been planned and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. So if that is the actual definition, was Gordon Sully it was Gorilla Monsoon basically saying like, oh, everything going on in WWF right now, it's just, an unplanned happenstance, a happy coincidence. Like, all right, whatever. We now go back to Gordon Sully, live with Ric Flair and Woman. Gordon says that many believe Flair will lose tonight. Just comes right out with it. Flair puts over how he's a 6-time world champion, and he's done it all in professional wrestling.
Wow. Only 6 at this point. He's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, he's going to hit 10 more in the next decade. God. But we now go back to ringside where Gary Michael Capetta, the world's most dangerous announcer, introduces Sting. Like we're about to memorialize him after he died. Like, did you notice that? He was like,
I did not.
Yeah, they were playing his music, and he said something about Sting, who was taken out, who was tragically taken out by the 4 horsemen and whatever. I'm like, my God, he's still
for the
alive,
7th time in his career at this point.
Only the best get that done to him, man. Him, Dusty Rhodes. It's a few and far between high honor. But Sting then walks out on crutches with a giant brace on his left leg, wearing some shorty shorts. That was something. But they're blaming the injury on the 4 horsemen, even though actually some crew member was the one who yanked Sting off the cage and made Sting land weird. And that's why he tore up his knee real bad. But he comes out to the ring now and then goes right backstage for some reason. Like, hi, everybody, I'm here. All right, bye. All right. But we're going to take our second to last break here. When we come back, it's main event time. Right after this.
Follow the Main Event Marks at facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector.
What's up, everybody? I am the hardest part of the ring, the host of the Apron Bump podcast. Ugh. Another wrestling podcast. How many times can I listen to fans tell me who needs a push, who doesn't need a push, who brings Vince's coffee these days? Enough! The Apron Bump is about the journey. It's about nostalgia. It's about discovering new forms of wrestling to really tickle your pickle as a wrestling fan. The podcast brings you reviews of wrestling events all over the world, whether it's WWF, WWE, WCW, ECW. We even cover the golden eras of Ring of Honor, Progress, TNA, and more promotions in the future as well. New episodes every Wednesday. Bump Day, yeah? Go to apronbump.com or go to your favorite podcast platform or YouTube and subscribe today for the most diverse, fan-friendly wrestling podcast in the world. I'm Hard.
Marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/Main Event Marks.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Main event time here. It's Ric Flair defending the NWA World Heavyweight title against, and he's got woman in his corner. He's defending the title against Lex Luger in 38 minutes and 8 seconds. Oh, man. Well, they do the usual great, big, strong babyface versus smaller, smarter heel match. Luger.
It's not a knock on Luger. You know I love Luger, but man, he loved to pose, man.
Oh, hell yeah. He'd pose and yell a lot. Maybe he got that from Sting, because Sting did the same thing. But Luger overpowers Flair a lot, but Rick eventually uses some cheap tactics to gain control and then works Luger's arms and legs. When Flair starts to dominate, Sting comes out, shakes Luger's head, and then slaps him to motivate him. This changes the tide of the match a bit. At one point, Woman repeatedly slaps Luger in the face right in front of the ref. Then the ref tries to get between them. Flair then runs up and knees Luger in the back, causing the ref to get bumped. Later, Luger has Flair covered, but the ref is down. The Andersons run out to interfere. Who could have foreseen? But Luger sends them packing, and he locks Rick in the torture rack. Ref gets up, but the Andersons grab Sting, leading to Luger coming to save him. This leads to a count-out victory for Ric Flair. Weak. But Uncle Dave gave this 4.5 stars. I gave it 3.5. What say you?
I gave it 3.
I'd say best match of the night, probably, but
yeah,
again, that was a low bar to clear. I would say they stole the show, but that's petty theft at this point. After the match, the Andersons get back in the ring and beat down Lex Luger.
Because we got to have an afterbirth.
Oh, yeah. Sting tries to avoid the action, and the Steiners rush out to chase the Horsemen off. I'll say this. Terry Funk wasn't an amazing commentator, and you can tell that, like, this was one of the first times he'd done it.
Again, like you said with Luger, also with him, he yelled a lot in commentary.
Yeah, that's true.
Almost like he was yelling when he was saying at the wrestlers in the ring. I want you to hear what I'm saying. Your mother's a whore.
Good Lord. I will say this. I mean, I think he tried. Like he seemed like he was making an actual effort here, and he wasn't just like phoning it in. So that's good. But yeah, I don't know. I think given more time, he probably could have been good at this. But I don't think this was really his thing where he wanted to shine necessarily.
I think that he was just filling in until he was getting ready to wrestle again because it's coming up.
Yeah. Was it later this year or no? Wait, did he just wrap up his feud with Flair?
I don't remember if it happened already or it's coming because I know it started when he was still doing time commentary, interviewing.
Oh, yeah, it was 89. So that's why, okay. Yeah, because he's a babyface here. That's right. Because he turned babyface when he lost to Flair.
But he started as a face and turned on Flair. He turned heel. So he turned back into a face?
Yeah. Well, remember.
Lord, all over the damn place.
Well, now in the archives, New York Knockout, he lost that last man standing match, and then he shook Flair's hand, and or was it I Quit, last man standing, whatever the hell. And
I Quit.
Yeah, and he shook Ric Flair's hand, and Gary Hart got mad at him, and they got into a big thing.
That's right. Okay.
Pretty much turned him face, but either way, that does it for this show. We're gonna take our last break. On the other end of this, it's final ratings time. Right after this break.
Follow the Main Event Marks at Facebook.com/Main Event Marks Pod, on Twitter at Main Event _Marks, and on Instagram at Main Event _Marks and at Main Event Collector.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan McCarthy, and I'm the host of the No Credentials Required podcast. Start your work week with the Monday Drop-In, where I talk about the sports beat in the Capital District, also known as the Mighty 518, as well as Metro New York sports from an upstate point of view. I also give a life lesson from a weekly sports story, so you might learn something from that. I also have a midweek podcast where I interview different sports personalities and talk about a wide array of topics. Take a listen and subscribe on your preferred podcast app, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Also check out our social media channels on Twitter and Instagram, BellyUpNCR, and Facebook.com/BellyUpSportsNCR. We're a part of the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network in association with Godzilla Media. No credentials required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Hey gang, it's Commissioner Cooper of TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. Expert fantasy advice, free contests, leading expert medical and legal analysis, and most importantly, you. Interact with us on all social media platforms or check us out at tssfantasy.com. You can hear us on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many more. Check out the fun today and be a part of the most interactive fantasy show around. TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
Listen, homeboy, you gather around.
Main Event Marks are available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find all of our links on our link tree at linktr.ee/Main Event Marks.
Of entomology, Lex Luger, the belt.
And we're back.
We're back.
Final ratings time. Internet Movie Database gave this 6.5 out of 10. CageMatch.net gave it 6.52 out of 10. I give it maybe 7 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10. Basically D-. What say you?
D+. It passed.
Oh, man. Another Tommy Boyism in there. Yeah, this was a rough watch, man. We're not starting off February very good, I'll say. But
You should prepare yourself because I'm about to throw your ass under the bus. I didn't choose this.
Yeah. No, Greg did not choose this. He also did not choose the next show we're going to do, which we should probably talk about. The next show that we're going to cover is EC Dub. And it's 9 years. It's 9 years after this. It is ECW Crossing the Line 99. That one should be a show.
I haven't watched it yet.
Hey,
I have
the main
watched
event-
like 5 of our next 6 shows, and that's the one I didn't watch yet.
Well, the main event is RVD versus Jerry Lynn, so it's hard to go wrong with that one. Let's see if they do.
Jerry.
But oh yeah, Crossing the Line 99, man. It just see how it goes. That's next week for double main event.
Good chance this is the last ever Crossing the Line.
Yeah, it is. Because I'm pretty sure they didn't do one after that. But the next week after that is double main event week. February 15th, we're actually dropping. We're going back to WCW 2 years after this event, by the way. It's WCW Super Brawl 2. Took place in February of 1992. I like 1992, and I like most things we've seen from it thus far from both
I don't think you're
companies.
going to hate this show.
Yeah, I might have jinxed it, but we'll see. But also that week, that Friday, we were covering WWF Raw from February 5th, 2001. It's the very last time Raw was ever.
Because the Georgia Dome tickles TJ's fancy.
I just thought it
People
was
who've
cool.
people who are regular listeners, he's covered. He's booked every damn Georgia Dome show there's ever been.
Well, I wanted to cover the WWF, the Raw ones in the Georgia Dome because the Nitros were always really big, but this was not WWF territory. So this was, at this time, Vince was just literally going in and planting his flag in the center of their field.
And I'm looking at our March schedule, by the way, and you did not put WrestleMania 27. You okay? You know that was in the Georgia Dome too, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid that WrestleMania as long as humanly possible.
But you put WrestleMania 9 on here.
Well, yeah, that was a classic.
Did.
We had men in togas, Greg. What don't you get?
Yeah, Oklahomans in togas too. So.
Exactly. So therefore, historic. All right. We also had, speaking of this guy, we had El Gigante on this card.
No, we didn't.
Well, we did. He wasn't called that, but he was on.
You got it wrong. Well, you might as well say we had Mean Mark Callous on this show too.
Well, we did. Yeah. Oh, oddly enough, I wonder if they ever faced off in. Probably not, but I wonder if they ever faced off in NWA.
I think he was gone by the time Gonzalez started. El Gigante, see, I did it too.
Yeah, because I want to say Great American Bash might have been Mean Mark's last show. somewhere in there. But yeah, I know it was sometime after that. And then obviously later in 1990, November to be exact, he popped up at the Survivor Series as The Undertaker. So there you go. But either way, but that's the February bonus show. And finally, we're closing out the month with some TNA, February 22nd.
Oh,
TNA
yeah.
it's Against All Odds 2012. And Against All Odds is an apropos name because Against All Odds, that company still survives. How? Why? Don't know. But yeah, we've actually made a video about that. If anybody goes and checks out our clip on YouTube, I said Impact Wrestling survives against all odds. So go check that out. But anyway, that does it for us today. Thank you for joining me today, Greg.
Yep.
And we will see you all next week.
See you next week.
For ECW Crossing the Line 99.